It was still dark when the twins started crying again. The wind whipped against the window of the old wooden farmhouse, and the widowed farmer walked the hallway with steps that seemed to drag the weight of the whole world. For months, they hadn't slept a full night, as if the silence of absence had become too vast for two such small children. It was then, even before the sun rose, that she appeared at the gate. A poor woman, in plain clothes and a worn scarf over her shoulders, carrying in her eyes the courage of someone who had nothing left to lose. She came to ask for work, but life would deliver her far more than that. Subscribe to the channel for heartwarming stories every day. The farm woke before the sun. It had always been that way as long as Miguel could remember. But now, in the early morning hours, what woke him wasn't the crowing of the rooster or the distant lowing of cattle. It was the crying of the twins, Clara and Helena, 2.5 years old. Brown eyes the same as their mother's, fine hair he couldn't quite figure out how to comb. They slept in the same makeshift crib because when separated, they cried even more. And they cried every night, as if searching for something that was no longer there. Miguel ran a hand over his rough face, feeling the stubble of his beard. The wooden hallway creaked under his bare feet. The house had 3 bedrooms, a large kitchen with a wood-burning stove, and a porch overlooking the pasture where the cows grazed, indifferent to human suffering. It was a good house, solid, but far too empty. He entered the girls' room, the scent of talcum powder mixed with the aroma of old wood. Clara was standing in the crib holding the rails, her face red from crying so much. Helena was still lying down, but her eyes were open, glistening with tears. "Shh, shh," Miguel murmured, picking Clara up. The little girl buried her face in his shoulder, sobbing. He picked Helena up with his other arm, balancing both against his broad chest. "It'll pass. It'll pass." But it didn't pass. It never passed. He sat down in the rocking chair that Anna had chosen when she was still pregnant and dreaming of quiet nights rocking the babies. The chair groaned softly, the same monotonous sound Miguel knew by heart. Clara was starting to calm down, but Helena remained restless, squirming, searching for something he couldn't offer. A mother, the right lap, the right voice. Anna had died 3 months after giving birth. A fever that came on fast, that took her before he could even grasp what was happening. The doctor from town had come too late. And ever since, Miguel had been taking care of the twins alone, or trying to. He'd hired old Joanna for a few weeks, but she'd gone back to her children in the city. Then came Teresina, the priest's niece, but she was afraid of the children, said they cried too much and that the farm was too isolated. They all left, and Miguel stayed. He worked the land from sunup to sundown, planted corn, beans, yams, cared for 10 dairy cows, 3 horses, chickens, pigs. The farm wasn't large, but it was a lot of work. And at night, when he returned with dirty hands and an aching back, he still had to cook, clean, change diapers, do laundry. The twins finally fell asleep against his chest. Miguel stayed there, motionless, feeling the warm weight of their small bodies, the smell of sour milk and infant sweat. Through the window, he saw the sky beginning to lighten, a grayish stripe on the horizon. Soon he'd need to get them up, change their diapers, make some oatmeal, start all over again. He looked at the dresser where Anna's portrait sat. She was smiling in her simple wedding dress, a white flower in her hair. "Would you have managed, Anna?" he thought, as he always did, "or am I just too weak?" He stood up slowly, placing the girls back in the crib. They stirred, but didn't wake. He left the room in silence, closing the door carefully. In the kitchen, he lit the fire in the wood stove, put water on to boil. Strong coffee. It was what kept him going. He sat at the table looking out the window. The wind blew hard, shaking the trees around the house. Out there, the world kept turning, indifferent, unforgiving. And inside that wooden house, Miguel felt like he was slowly sinking, carrying 2 children in his arms, not knowing if he'd ever reach the surface. But giving up wasn't an option. It never would be. He took a sip of the bitter coffee, feeling the hot liquid go down his throat. Today, he'd have to go into town for supplies. He'd take the twins because he had no one to leave them with. It would be tiring, as it always was, but it was what he had to do because they were all that was left of Anna, and he wouldn't fail them. Not again. The sun hadn't fully risen when Miguel heard the gate creak. He was finishing dressing Clara, struggling with the tiny buttons on her worn-out dress, while Helena waited her turn sitting on the floor, gnawing on a piece of cloth. Who could be coming so early? He picked Helena up, took Clara's hand, and went to the porch. The grey morning light barely illuminated the dirt path leading to the gate, and there, standing, was a woman. Thin, a faded brown dress, a grey shawl over her shoulders, a small bundle at her feet. Her dark hair was pulled back in a low bun, and even from a distance, Miguel could see she was trembling. From cold or fear, he didn't know. He descended the porch steps, the girls clinging to him as always. He approached slowly. The woman raised her face as he got closer, dark, tired eyes, but firm. She didn't look away. "Good morning," Miguel said, his voice hoarse from lack of sleep. "Good morning, sir." Her voice was low, but clear. "I'm sorry to show up like this, so early. I came from town. I walked all night." Miguel frowned. "The town is 4 miles from here." "I know." She pulled the shawl tighter around her body. "I heard you needed help. With the house, with the children." Miguel felt a tightness in his chest. How many times had he heard that before? How many people had come, full of promises, only to give up in the first week? "Who told you that?" "The priest, Father Estevan. He said you're a good man, raising your daughters alone. He said I could try." Miguel looked at her more closely. He saw her calloused hands, her short, clean fingernails. He saw the way she looked at the twins, without fear, without revulsion, just curiosity. Kindness, perhaps. "What's your name?" "Rosa." "Rosa," he repeated, testing the name. "Do you have experience with children?" She hesitated, just a second, but Miguel noticed. "I did." Her voice grew softer. "I've cared for many children, but it's been a while." "Why did you leave town?" Another hesitation. She looked at the ground. "There was no work for me there. People don't trust outsiders." Miguel understood that all too well. The suspicion, the fear of the different. "And where did you come from before town?" "From far away." Rosa raised her eyes again. "But if you give me a chance, I promise I'll work hard. I can cook, clean, sew. I can take care of children. I don't need much, just a place to stay." Clara started to squirm in Miguel's lap, wanting to get down. He put her on the floor, but held her little hand tight. Helena looked at Rosa with those big, attentive eyes. "Do you have family?" Rosa shook her head. "No, sir, not anymore." Miguel sighed. He knew he should be more careful. He should ask more, investigate, but he was exhausted. And something about this woman, the way she held her shawl, the way she looked at the girls, told him she wasn't a threat. Maybe it was just desperation, his and hers. "Come in," he said finally. "I'll give you work for a week. If it works out, we can talk about staying longer. There's an empty room out back. It's not big, but it has a bed and a window." Rosa's eyes filled with tears. She blinked fast, pushing them away. "Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. You won't regret it." Miguel didn't answer. He just turned and started walking back toward the house. Rosa picked up her bundle and followed him, keeping a respectful distance. Inside the kitchen, Miguel gestured to the table. "Sit, I'll make coffee." Rosa obeyed, placing her bundle on the floor beside the chair. The twins stood near the door, watching the stranger. Clara sucked her thumb. Helena held a scrap of cloth against her face. Miguel poured 2 cups of coffee, pushing one toward Rosa. She took it with both hands, as if it were a treasure. "The girls are Clara and Helena," he said. "They're 2.5. Clara's the more talkative one. Helena's quieter. They don't sleep well. They don't eat much. They cry a lot." Rosa nodded, taking a sip of the coffee. "I'll learn." Miguel looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded too. The work starts now. Rosa spent the first few days in silence. She woke before Miguel, started the fire in the stove, prepared coffee and bread. When he came down with the twins, the table was already set. She'd take the girls from him without asking, change their diapers with quick, efficient movements, dress them, comb their fine hair with care. Miguel watched from a distance, suspicious at first. But Rosa didn't make mistakes. She knew exactly what to do. She washed the clothes in the basin out back, hanging them on the line with precision. She swept the house, cleaned the windows, mended the rips in the children's clothes with tiny, perfect stitches. In the kitchen, she made simple soups, bean stew, cornbread, honest food, no waste. And at night, when the twins started to cry, Rosa would enter the room without asking permission. She'd sit on the floor, lean her back against the wall, and sing. Her voice was unlike anything Miguel had ever heard. It wasn't pretty in a technical sense. It was raspy, a little shaky. But there was something in it, something that calmed. The girls would stop crying almost immediately, turning their little heads toward her, searching for the source of that sound. And then they'd sleep. Miguel would stand outside the door, listening. He didn't understand the words. It was an old song, perhaps in another language, or maybe just sounds Rosa made up. But it worked, and for the first time in months, he was able to sleep a full night. But the peace was fragile. On the third day, Miguel went into town to get supplies. He took Rosa with him because he needed her to know the way in case she ever had to go alone. The twins stayed with Sœur Lorival, the nearest neighbor, who had grandchildren and didn't mind looking after the girls for a few hours. In town, Miguel bought the usual: flour, sugar, kerosene, salt. Rosa stayed beside him, quiet, looking around with that same attentive, cautious gaze. It was at Sœur Joachim's general store that everything started to go wrong. "Miguel," Sœur Joachim called from the counter, a wide smile on his face. "And who's this young lady with you?" "Rosa." Miguel placed the purchases on the counter. "She's helping me with the girls." Sœur Joachim's smile faltered a bit. He looked Rosa up and down. "Oh, is she? Where are you from, miss?" Rosa lowered her eyes. "From far away, sir." "Far where?" "Joachim?" Miguel interrupted, his voice firm. "How much do I owe you?" But the damage was done. Donna Marta, who was buying fabric at the corner of the store, approached with a sharp look. "An outsider, Miguel. Are you sure about this? With 2 little children in the house?" Miguel felt anger rising, but he controlled himself. "I'm sure, Donna Marta, and I appreciate your concern." "It's not concern, it's common sense." Donna Marta crossed her arms. "We don't know anything about this woman, where she came from, what she's done. She could be anything." Rosa flinched as if she wanted to disappear. Miguel saw the blush creeping up her cheeks, saw the way she wrung her hands against her dress. "Rosa is an honest woman," Miguel said, his voice low but firm. "She's working hard, and she doesn't owe anyone an explanation." Donna Marta huffed, indignant. Sœur Joachim just shook his head, bagging the groceries in silence. On the way back to the farm, Rosa didn't say a word. She walked beside Miguel, her eyes on the dirt road, her shoulders hunched. When they arrived home and Sœur Lorival left with the twins, Miguel found Rosa sitting on the porch, her face hidden in her hands. He sat down beside her slowly. "Don't mind them." Rosa shook her head, but didn't remove her hands from her face. "They're right. I shouldn't be here." "Why?" "Because Her voice faltered. "Because this always happens. People ask questions, and I don't have good answers. I don't have family, I don't have a past worth mentioning. I'm just nobody." Miguel was silent for a moment. Then he said, "You take care of my daughters like no one else could. You make this house run. That's something." Rosa finally looked at him, her eyes red. "But what if they're right? What if I'm not good enough?" Miguel held her gaze. "You are. And as long as I say you stay, You stay. Understand? She nodded slowly, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. Thank you. Miguel stood up, extending his hand to help her up too. Now come on. The girls will wake up soon and they'll want dinner. Rosa took his hand and got to her feet, and for the first time since she'd arrived, she smiled. A small, hesitant smile, but a real one. The weeks passed, and the farm took on a new rhythm. Miguel would wake to find coffee ready, the girls clean and fed, the house in order. He could work the fields without the constant guilt gnawing at him. And at night, when he returned, dirty with soil and bone-tired, a hot dinner waited. Rosa moved through the house like an efficient shadow. She didn't talk much, but she observed everything. She learned where Miguel kept his tools, which cow gave the most milk, how Clara liked her oatmeal thinner and Helena preferred her bread dipped in milk. The twins began to follow her around the house, first with suspicion, then with curiosity, and finally with affection. Clara would tug on the hem of Rosa's dress to get her attention. Helena would reach out her little arms to be carried, and Rosa would pick them up one at a time, talking softly to them as she cooked or folded laundry. Miguel watched all this and felt something strange stirring within him. It wasn't exactly happiness. Happiness was a distant thing, something that had died with Anna, but it was relief, and maybe, just maybe, a beginning of peace. One afternoon, Miguel was mending the pasture fence when he saw Rosa coming out of the house with the twins. She carried an old wicker basket, the girls clinging to each of her hands. They walked slowly across the yard, Rosa pointing out the trees, the chickens scratching in the dirt, the wildflowers growing around the house. Miguel dropped his hammer and walked over. "What are you doing?" Rosa turned, surprised. Clara ran to Miguel, hugging his leg. Elena stayed by Rosa's side, holding tight to her skirt. "I was going to show them where the blackberries grow," Rosa said, a little shyly. "I thought they might like it." Miguel looked at the basket, then at the girls. Clara was already tugging him towards the trees. "Can I come with you?" Rosa blinked, surprised. Then she nodded. Sure. They walked together to the base of the blackberry bush, an old, gnarled tree near the creek. The branches were laden with ripe fruit, almost black. Rosa lifted Clara, helping her pick the lower berries. Miguel did the same with Helena. The girls giggled, their little fingers stained purple, eating more than they put in the basket. Rosa laughed too, a light sound he hadn't known she was capable of. And he found himself smiling, a rare thing in recent months. When the basket was full, they sat in the shade of the tree. Rosa took a cloth from her pocket and wiped the girls' hands, then offered berries to Miguel. He took a few, feeling the sweet, slightly tart flavor burst in his mouth. "You're good with them," Miguel said, watching Clara try to build a tower with pebbles. Rosa looked at the girls, her eyes soft. "They're easy to love." "Not always," Miguel sighed. "I've had people say they're spoiled, that they cry too much, that they're too much work." "They're children," Rosa said simply. "Children cry, children need attention, there's nothing wrong with them." Miguel fell silent, watching his daughters. Clara was now trying to put a flower in Helena's hair, which Helena shook her head at, giggling. "Have you had children?" he asked, before thinking if it was appropriate. Rosa stiffened. It took her a moment to answer. "No, but I've cared for many." "Why did you stop?" She looked down at her hands, the blackberries forgotten. "Because I lost everything at once. My family, my home, and when you lose everything, people don't trust you anymore. They think you're to blame, that you're unlucky, or worse." Miguel turned to her. "And were you to blame?" Rosa lifted her eyes and he saw the old pain there, buried deep. "I don't know. Sometimes I think so. Sometimes I think I'm just cursed." "You're not," Miguel said firmly. "You're here. You're taking care of my daughters. You're making a difference. That's not a curse. It's providence." Rosa blinked, surprised by the word providence, as if God had placed her there for a reason. "Do you believe that?" Miguel shrugged. "I don't know what I believe, but I know you came when I needed you most. And that has to mean something." Rosa didn't answer. She just looked at the girls, and Miguel saw a dampness in her eyes. They stayed there until the sun began to dip, painting the sky orange and pink. Then they walked back to the house together with the basket full of blackberries, and the girls stained purple, giggling. And for the first time in a long time, the farm felt less empty. It was in the 4th week that Helena got sick. It started with a different kind of cry, sharp, inconsolable. Miguel was in the pasture when he heard Rosa calling from the house, her voice laced with urgency. He dropped everything and ran. He found Rosa in the girl's room, holding Helena in her arms. The little girl was trembling, her face red and slick with sweat. Clara was in her crib, crying too, scared by her sister's cries. "She's burning up," Rosa said, her voice tight. "High fever?" Miguel touched Helena's forehead and felt the heat radiating from it. His heart leaped. "Not again, please God, not again." "I'll get the doctor," he said, already turning. "No," Rosa grabbed his arm. "It's too far. She needs care now. Do you have clean cloths?" "Cold water?" Miguel nodded, trying to think. "In the cupboard, I'll get them." In the next few minutes, Rosa turned the room into a makeshift infirmary. She asked for cold well water, clean cloths, a large basin. She took off Helena's clothes, leaving her in just a diaper, and began to sponge the little girl's body with damp cloths. Helena cried, trying to pull away from the cold water, but Rosa held her, firm yet gentle. "I know, sweetie, I know it's bad," Rosa murmured. "But it'll pass. It'll pass, I promise." Miguel picked up Clara, trying to soothe her, but his eyes were fixed on Helena. Memories of Anna came in waves. The fever, the doctor arriving too late, her body growing cold despite all their efforts. "Miguel," Rosa's voice brought him back. "Breathe, she'll be okay." "How do you know?" "Because I won't let anything happen to her." There was a determination in Rosa's voice that made Miguel believe. He nodded, sitting down with Clara in his lap, watching. Rosa worked through the night. She changed the damp cloths every few minutes, keeping Helena cool. She patiently tried to get the girl to drink water, drop by drop. She hummed softly that same old melody, transforming the room into a sanctuary of care. Around midnight, Helena finally fell asleep. The fever was still there, but a little lower. Rosa leaned against the wall, exhausted, her dress clinging to her body with sweat. Miguel was still in the chair, Clara asleep against his chest. "You should rest," Miguel said softly. Rosa shook her head. "I'll stay, in case she gets worse." "I'll stay with you." Rosa looked at him, surprised. Then she nodded. They stayed there, in silence. The only sounds, the soft breathing of the children filling the room. The kerosene lamp cast dancing shadows on the wooden walls. Outside, the crickets chirped, indifferent to the human drama. "Why do you do this?" Miguel asked, breaking the silence. "Do what?" "Care like this, as if they were your own." Rosa looked at Helena, sleeping restlessly in her crib. "Because someone has to, and because I know what it's like to have no one." "Tell me." Rosa hesitated. But maybe it was the exhaustion, or the intimacy of that moment, or simply the need to let out what she'd been carrying for so long. She started to speak, her voice low. "I had a family. Not a big one, but it was mine. My dad, my mom, 2 younger brothers. We were poor, but we managed. Then the drought came. 3 years without rain. The crops died. The animals died. We started to go truly hungry." She stopped, taking a deep breath. "My dad tried everything. Loans, work in town, anything. But it didn't work out. One day he left to look for work and didn't come back. We waited. Weeks, months. But he never returned." Miguel felt a tightness in his chest. "And your mother?" "She got sick. I think it was from grief. She died that winter. My brothers were taken by an aunt we barely knew." She didn't want to take me, said I was old enough to take care of myself. How old were you? 15. 15. A child, alone in the world. Since then, I've been moving from place to place. I worked wherever they'd take me. Babysat, washed clothes, cooked. But it never lasted. People were always suspicious. They always thought I'd steal or bring bad luck or whatever, so I kept moving on. Until you got here. Rosa nodded, wiping away a tear that escaped. Until I got here. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could stay. That I had a place. Miguel reached out, touching her shoulder. A light, respectful touch. You do. You have a place here, Rosa. She looked at him, her eyes shining in the dim lamplight. And then she smiled, a small but true smile. Thank you. Helena stirred, whimpering softly. Rosa got up immediately, grabbing a clean cloth, and resumed her care. And Miguel stayed there, watching, realizing something had changed between them. Something nameless yet. But it was growing, slowly and surely, like the blackberries on the old tree. Helena got better in 3 days. The fever broke, her appetite returned, and soon she was running around the house after Clara as if nothing had happened. But something had changed. Miguel looked at Rosa differently now, and Rosa, who had always been so careful to keep her distance, seemed more relaxed in his presence. They worked side by side more often. Miguel fixing the barn roof while Rosa planted herbs in the garden nearby, or him bringing in firewood while she prepared dinner. They talked more too, about small things at first. The weather, the girls, the livestock. But gradually, the conversations deepened. It was on a Sunday after church that everything unraveled. Miguel rarely went to Mass, but Father Estevano had insisted so much that he finally relented. He took the girls and Rosa. She hesitated, saying she could stay home, but Miguel insisted she deserved a rest too. The church was small, made of light wood with hard pews. Father Estevan was a good man, with white hair and kind eyes. He spoke of charity, of welcoming your neighbor, of not judging. Miguel saw Rosa listening intently, her hands clasped in her lap. After Mass at the church door, it was inevitable. People were gathered in the small square in front, chatting, catching up. Mrs. Marta was there, of course, and also Mr. Matthias, the owner of the general store, and Miss Judith, the teacher, and others. Miguel! Mrs. Marta came straight to him, her face a mask of false concern. So good to see you at church. And the girls, how beautiful. They're growing so much. She looked at Rosa, who was a step behind, holding Helena's hand. And you're still with that woman? Miguel felt his jaw tighten. Rosa works for me, and she takes care of my daughters very well. Oh, I'm sure, Mrs. Marta smiled, but there was no warmth there. But Miguel, we have to think about what's right. A woman alone, living in a widower's house. People talk. Let them talk. It's not just talk, Miguel. It's thinking about the girls. About the example. Mr. Matthias joined the conversation, his voice serious. Nobody's saying she's a bad person, but we don't know anything about her. Where she came from, what she did, and with young children. Rosa had gone pale. Miguel saw how she shrank, as if she wanted to disappear, and something inside him snapped. You want to know what she did? She took care of Helena when she had a fever. She stayed up all night without sleep, giving her compresses, giving her water, singing to her. She saved my daughter. Is that what you want to know? Silence. The people around stopped talking, turning to see what was happening. Miguel? Miss Judith approached, her voice soft but firm. Nobody's doubting she's a hard worker, but there's a right way of doing things. If you want her to stay, perhaps you should make it official. Get married. Then people will stop talking. Miguel was speechless. Married? To Rosa? They barely knew each other. And Anna? Rosa took a step forward, her voice trembling but clear. I'll leave. She looked at Miguel. I don't want to cause trouble. You're right. I shouldn't have stayed this long. Rosa, no. Miguel started. But she was already leaving, walking quickly across the square, her back straight but her shoulders trembling. Miguel stood there, the twins clinging to his legs, looking at the people around him. He saw condemnation in some eyes, curiosity in others, satisfaction in Mrs. Marta's. Father Estevo approached, placing a hand on Miguel's shoulder. "Go after her, son, and don't let these people decide your life." Miguel nodded, grabbed the girls, and ran. He found Rosa on the road, already far from the village. She was walking fast, wiping her face with her hands. Miguel ran until he caught up with her, the girls in his arms. "Rosa, wait!" She stopped but didn't turn around. "You have to go back." Her voice was broken. "I'll ruin your name, Miguel. And the girls. It's not worth it." Miguel went around, standing in front of her. Rosa's eyes were red, but she was holding back tears. "I'm the one who decides that, not them. But they're right. I'm nobody. I have no family, no past. I only bring trouble." "You brought me peace," Miguel almost shouted, surprising himself. "You brought peace to this house. You take care of my daughters as if they were your own. You cook, you clean, you fix things. You made me remember that life can be more than just surviving." Rosa shook her head, tears falling freely now. "But I don't deserve this. I don't deserve you, or them, or this place." "Why? Why do you think that?" And then Rosa broke down. She sat down on the side of the road, sobbing, and told him everything. The family she had lost, the guilt she carried for not being able to save them, the shame of being poor, of being alone, of always being the one who didn't belong. Miguel sat beside her, placing Clara and Helena between them, and he waited. He waited until she finished, until her tears dried, until her breathing calmed. Then he said, in the gentlest voice he could manage, "You deserve it, Rosa. Everyone deserves a place, and yours is with us." Rosa looked at him through her tears. She saw truth there. She saw kindness. She saw something more. "And what if they don't stop talking?" Miguel shrugged. "Let them talk. We know the truth. And that's enough." Rosa laughed, a wet, tired sound, but it was a laugh. Clara crawled over to her, hugging her neck. Helena did the same on the other side. And Rosa hugged them back, holding on tight, feeling the weight of those children like an anchor that finally held her in place. "Let's go home," Miguel said, standing up and extending his hand. Rosa took his hand and stood. And together, the four of them walked back down the dirt road, the rising sun painting everything gold. 2 weeks after the incident in the town square, the letter arrived. It was Mr. Lorival who brought it, coming from the village with a serious look on his face. Miguel was in the barn, branding the calves for sale. Rosa was in the kitchen with the girls, making cookies. "Miguel!" Mr. Lorival called from the gate. "There's a letter for you. It's from the county court." Miguel's stomach sank. A letter from the court was never good news. He wiped his hands on his pants and took the envelope. The paper was rough, official. He opened it with trembling fingers. He read it once, twice. It couldn't be true. "What is it?" Mr. Lorival asked, concerned. Miguel couldn't answer. He walked into the house, the letter crumpled in his hand. Rosa saw him and knew immediately something was wrong. "Miguel." He placed the letter on the table, sat down heavily in a chair. Rosa came closer, read over his shoulder. "To Mr. Miguel Santos. This is to inform you that an investigation has been opened regarding the suitability of the domestic environment for raising the minors, Clara and Helena Santos. An anonymous complaint alleges the presence of a person of questionable conduct in the home, endangering the moral and physical well-being of the children. An inspection visit will be conducted within 15 days. Failure to appear or obstruction of the inspection will result in applicable legal measures." Rosa turned white. The letter slipped from her hands. "No, no, no, no! They want to take my daughters." Miguel's voice was hollow. "They want to take my daughters because of you." The words came out before he could think, and the second he said them, Miguel regretted it. He saw the pain flash across Rosa's face, saw how she recoiled, as if she'd been slapped. "Rosa, I didn't mean—" "You did." Her voice was dead. "And you're right. It's because of me. It always is." She left the kitchen. Miguel heard her bedroom door slam. Clara and Helena, sensing the tension, began to cry. Miguel stood there, the letter in his hand, feeling the weight of the world crashing down on him. What have I done? What will I do? He spent the afternoon trying to think. He went to the village to speak with Father Stephen, who promised to write a letter attesting to Miguel's character. He went to speak with the doctor who had treated Helena, asking for a document confirming the adequate care she had received. He did everything he could, but he knew it wouldn't be enough. Not if Rosa wasn't there. He returned home as dusk was falling. The kitchen was dark, no smell of food. Strange. "Rosa!" Silence. He went to her room. The door was open. The room was empty. The bed was made, but the bundle she had arrived with was no longer there. On top of the dresser, a piece of paper. With trembling hands, Miguel picked it up. "Miguel, I'm sorry for everything. You and the girls deserve peace, and I only brought trouble. I'm leaving. That way the inspection won't find anything wrong and you'll stay together. Take good care of them. They're special, and so are you. Rosa." Miguel crumpled the paper, anger and despair warring within him. How could she do this? Just leave? After everything? But then he realized. She was doing what she always did, running away to protect others, carrying the guilt alone. "No," Miguel said aloud to the empty room. "Not this time." He ran to the kitchen where the girls were playing with wooden blocks, oblivious to the drama. He scooped up Clara and Helena, placed them in the lap of Mr. Lorival, who was waiting outside. "Stay with them. I don't know how long I'll be." "Where are you going?" "To get someone." Miguel mounted his horse and galloped down the road. Night was falling, but he knew every curve, every stone of that path. Rosa had left only a few hours ago. She couldn't be far. Not on foot. He rode for almost an hour until he saw a small figure by the side of the road. Rosa, sitting on a rock, her bundle at her feet, her face hidden in her hands. Miguel dismounted, approached slowly. "Rosa." She looked up, her eyes wide. "Miguel." "What?" "You're an idiot," he said bluntly. "A complete idiot." Rosa blinked, confused. "I left to help, to not mess up the inspection. And you think you're helping the girls by leaving? You think they'll understand? They'll be devastated, Rosa. They need you. But the inspection—" "Screw the inspection!" Miguel shouted, surprising them both. I'll fight with all the strength I have, but not alone, with you, because you're part of this family now, whether you like it or not." Rosa shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "They'll take the girls because of me, or we fight and show them they're wrong." Miguel knelt in front of her, taking her hands. "I need you, Rosa. The girls need you, and I don't want you to go." Rosa looked into his eyes and saw something that made her stop breathing. It wasn't pity, it wasn't duty, it was affection, real and deep. "Miguel, come home, please." Rosa closed her eyes, feeling the tears fall. Then she nodded. "Okay, I'll come back." Miguel helped her up, took her bundle and placed it on the horse. They climbed on together, Rosa in front, Miguel behind, holding on tight so she wouldn't fall. And they rode back home in the darkness of the night, with the moonlight guiding their way. The 15 days passed too quickly. Miguel and Rosa worked like never before. They cleaned the house from top to bottom. They organized every corner, every shelf. Miguel fixed the leaking roof, painted the porch, replaced the rotten floorboards. Rosa sewed new clothes for the girls, washed all the blankets, organized the pantry. She cooked 3 meals a day, always with the table set, always clean, but it wasn't just about appearances. They knew that. In the village, Miguel spoke with everyone he could. Father Stephen wrote a beautiful letter, speaking of Miguel's faith and character. The doctor attested that Helena had received excellent care during her fever. Mr. Lorival, the teacher Judith, who regretted her words in the square, the owner of the general store, they all signed statements saying Miguel was a good father. But something was missing, and Miguel knew what it was. One night, after the girls were asleep, he sat with Rosa on the porch. The air was cool, the stars shone brightly in the cloudless sky. "There's something we could do," Miguel said, looking into the darkness. "But only if you want to." "No pressure?" Rosa turned to him, curious. "What?" "We could get married." The silence that followed was long. Rosa remained motionless, her eyes wide. "What?" "It wouldn't be real," Miguel hastened to explain. "I mean, it would be legal, on paper. But it would just be for the inspection, to show that you're not a stranger, that you're family." Rosa shook her head slowly. "Miguel, I can't ask that of you. You're not asking. I'm offering." He looked at her serious. "And it's not just for the inspection, it's because I want you to stay, really, forever. And if we need a piece of paper for that, then so be it." "But what about Anna? You loved her. I can't take her place." Miguel took a deep breath. "You're not taking anyone's place, Rosa. You're making your own place. And Anna would want the girls to have someone looking after them. She'd want me to be happy again. And I am. Happier than I've been in months. Because of you." Rosa felt tears sting her eyes, but this time they were different. They weren't of pain or shame. They were of hope. "Are you sure?" "I am. Are you?" Rosa looked at the house behind them, the house she had helped transform. She thought of the girls sleeping inside, the smiles they gave when they saw her in the morning, the way Clara tugged at her dress and Helena stretched out her little arms. She thought of the days working side by side with Miguel, the conversations on the porch, the silent but comfortable meals. She thought of having a home, a real home. "I am," she finally answered. "I'm sure." Miguel smiled, and it was a true smile, one that reached his eyes. "Then let's do this right." In the following days, they went to town and spoke with Father Michael. The priest, who knew the situation, agreed to perform the ceremony quickly. There would be no party, no guests. Just the two of them, the priest and Mr. Henderson as the witness. The wedding took place on a Thursday morning in the small, empty church. Rosa wore a simple blue dress she had sewn herself. Miguel wore his Sunday best, clean and pressed. The twins were there, in Mr. Henderson's arms, well-behaved and curious. Father Michael conducted the short and sincere ceremony. He spoke of commitment, of care, of building a home together. Miguel and Rosa repeated the vows, their voices steady. When the priest said, "You may kiss the bride," Miguel hesitated. Then he leaned in, giving Rosa a quick, chaste kiss on the cheek. She blushed. He smiled. "You are now husband and wife," the priest said, handing them the signed document. "May God bless this union." They returned to the farm in silence, but it was a comfortable silence. The girls slept in Rosa's lap. Miguel guided the horse slowly, without hurry. When they arrived home, Rosa prepared lunch. Miguel fed the animals. And when they sat at the table together, for the first time as an official family, something changed. It was as if a weight had been lifted, as if they finally had permission to be happy. "The inspection is tomorrow," Miguel said, eating the soup Rosa had made. "I know." Rosa looked at him. "Are we ready?" Miguel took her hand across the table. "We are." And for the first time in a long time, Rosa believed that maybe, just maybe, everything would turn out all right. The inspector arrived on a cloudy noon, driving a buggy pulled by a scrawny horse. He was a short man with a thin mustache and small eyes that scanned everything with suspicion. He carried a leather briefcase and a notebook. Miguel and Rosa were waiting on the porch. The twins played in the yard under Rosa's watchful eye. The house was immaculate. everything in its place, everything clean. "Mr. Miguel Santos?" the inspector said as he got out of the buggy, adjusting his hat. "That's me. Inspector Davis." He didn't offer his hand. "I'm here to conduct the inspection as notified. And you are?" "Rosa Santos." Rosa stepped forward. "His wife." The inspector raised his eyebrows, surprised. He consulted his notes. "Wife?" There was no mention of a marriage in the records. "We got married 5 days ago." Miguel showed him the document the priest had given them. "It's all legal." The inspector examined the paper carefully, as if looking for a flaw. But he found none. "I see." He put the document away. "May I come in?" "Please do." They spent the next hour in tension. The inspector inspected every room. He looked under the beds, inside the closets, in the pantry. He opened drawers, examined clothes, sniffed pots. He asked questions about their routine, their meals, the girls' education. Rosa answered everything calmly, showing the schedules she kept, the meals she prepared, the care she gave the girls. Miguel showed the documentation for everything: receipts, doctor's notes, letters of recommendation. The inspector jotted everything down, his face impassive. When it was time to see the children, Rosa called Clara and Helena inside. The girls came running, their dresses clean and their hair combed. Clara, always more talkative, stared at the strange man with curiosity. Helena hid behind Rosa. "Good morning, girls," the inspector said, attempting a smile that looked odd. "Can you tell me your names?" "Clara," Clara answered promptly. "And this is Helena. She doesn't talk much." "And do you like living here?" "I do. Auntie Rosa makes cookies, and Daddy lets us see the calves." The inspector wrote something down. Then he looked at Helena, who was still clinging to Rosa's skirt. "And you, Helena, do you like it here?" Helena didn't answer. She just nodded, burying her face deeper into Rosa's skirt. The inspector closed his notebook and stood up. "I'll need to speak with a few people in town. I'll be back soon with my decision." "How long?" Miguel asked, his voice tense. "A few days, maybe a week." After the inspector left, Miguel and Rosa stood on the porch, exhausted. The girls went back to playing, oblivious to the adults' tension. "Do you think it went well?" Rosa asked, her voice low. "I don't know. He didn't say anything, neither good nor bad." "And what if he decides against us?" Miguel squeezed her hand. "Then we'll fight harder. I'm not giving up on my daughters." "Our daughters," Rosa corrected softly. Miguel looked at her, surprised. But then he smiled. "Yeah, ours." They spent the next few days in agony. They worked, took care of the girls, tried to maintain their routine. But the tension was always there, like a dark cloud over the farm. It was on the 6th day that Mr. Henderson appeared, running, almost out of breath. "Miguel! Rosa!" He waved from the road. "The inspector is coming back, and he's not alone." Miguel's stomach sank. Rosa turned pale. They took the girls and went to the porch, waiting. The caseworker arrived with 2 other people, a middle-aged woman and a man in a suit. Miguel recognized the woman. It was Ms. Carmen from Child Protective Services. He didn't know the man. "Mr. Miguel, Mrs. Rosa," the caseworker said, stepping down from the car, his face serious. "This is Ms. Carmen and Mr. Davis from the court." "What does this mean?" Miguel asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The caseworker opened his briefcase, pulled out an official document. Miguel couldn't breathe. This was it. They were going to take the girls. After a thorough investigation, the caseworker began reading from the paper, interviews with witnesses, an analysis of the home conditions, and an assessment of the children's well-being. It has been concluded that... He paused. Rosa squeezed Miguel's hand so hard it hurt. "That there is no cause for intervention. The children are well cared for. The home is adequate, and the guardians demonstrate competence and commitment. The process is hereby closed. The children, Clara and Helena Santos, will remain in the custody of their parents." Silence. Then, a collective sigh of relief. Is this for real? Miguel could barely speak. It's for real. Ms. Carmen smiled. You've done a wonderful job. This house is a real home. The children are happy. That's all that matters. Rosa started to cry. Miguel pulled her into a tight hug. The twins, not understanding but sensing the joy, began to giggle. The caseworker put away his papers. I apologize for the intrusion, but it was necessary. Good luck to you all. When they drove off, Miguel and Rosa stood on the porch, embracing, the girls playing at their feet. The sun was beginning to break through the clouds, painting everything in gold. It's over, Rosa whispered. It's really over. It's over. Miguel kissed the top of her head. And now it really begins. 3 months later, the farm woke to the smell of fresh bread. Rosa had been in the kitchen since early morning, her hands covered in flour, her hair pulled back in a loose bun. Clara and Helena sat on the floor, playing with rag dolls Rosa had sewn for them. Miguel came through the back door, carrying still warm eggs from the coop. He stopped for a moment, just observing the scene. The morning light coming through the window, illuminating Rosa's face as she worked. The girls laughing softly, talking to each other in a language only they understood. It was perfect, simple, but perfect. Good morning, he said, placing the eggs on the table. Rosa turned, smiling, and what a smile. Miguel still marveled at it every time because it was genuine. She was happy, truly happy. Good morning. The bread is almost ready. Want some coffee? Yes, he said. He walked over, stealing a piece of leftover dough. Rosa lightly swatted his hand, feigning annoyance. Get out of here, you greedy thing. Miguel laughed. He picked up Clara, spinning her in the air. The girl shrieked with delight. Helena got up, extending her little arms. Me too. Me too. Of course, princess. Miguel picked up Helena too, balancing them both. You two always. They ate breakfast together, as they now did every day. The table was laden. Bread, butter, cheese, eggs, fresh milk. The girls ate messily, but no one minded. After breakfast, Miguel went to work in the fields. Rosa stayed with the girls, teaching them to plant beans in the small garden they'd started behind the house. Clara buried the seeds too deep. Helena ate more dirt than she planted, but they were learning. Auntie Rosa, Clara suddenly asked, looking up, are you going to stay with us always? Rosa felt a pang in her chest. She knelt down, bringing herself to the girls' level. Always, she promised. I'm not going anywhere. Not even if we're bad, Rosa laughed. Not even if you're bad, but try not to be, okay? Clara nodded, serious. Helena hugged her, squeezing tight. And Rosa closed her eyes, feeling that pure love that was almost painful in its goodness. In the afternoon, Mr. Lorival stopped by for a visit. He brought a bag of oranges from his orchard. He sat on the porch with Miguel, drinking coffee and talking about farm matters. You've changed, Mr. Lorival said suddenly, looking at Miguel intently. Changed. You seem lighter, more alive. Miguel looked inside the house, where Rosa was teaching the girls to sew. He saw her patience, her kindness. He saw the girls concentrating, trying to make straight stitches. Yeah, I guess I have. She's good for you, and for the girls. I know. Miguel took a sip of coffee. Sometimes I think, what if she hadn't shown up that day? What if she hadn't come asking for work? But she did, and you let her stay. That's what matters. Miguel nodded. It was true. At night, after the girls were asleep, without crying as they always did now, Miguel and Rosa sat on the porch. The sky was clear, full of stars. The crickets chirped. A gentle breeze blew. Are you happy here? Miguel asked, breaking the silence. Rosa looked at him, surprised by the question. Yes, she answered without hesitation. Happier than I've ever been, even though it's, what is it? A marriage of convenience? Rosa was silent for a moment. Then she said, it doesn't feel like convenience anymore, not to me. Miguel turned to her, his heart beating faster. Not to me either. They looked at each other in the darkness, and then slowly, Miguel reached out his hand. Rosa took it, their fingers intertwined, calloused and warm. "I love you, Rosa," Miguel said, simple and direct. "I don't know when it happened, but it happened. And I don't want to pretend it's not real anymore." Rosa felt tears welling up, but they were good tears. "I love you too," she confessed, "ever since you let me stay, ever since you gave me a chance when no one else would. I love you, Miguel." He pulled her closer, hugging her, and they stayed there, embraced on the porch under the stars, finally feeling like they were home. For real. Months later, in the spring, the old mulberry tree bloomed more beautifully than ever. Clara and Helena ran through the yard, taller and stronger, laughing out loud. The garden was bursting with vegetables. The house, freshly painted, gleamed in the sun. And inside, Rosa and Miguel worked side by side, no longer out of obligation or convenience, but out of love, by choice, for family. One day, Mrs. Gable dropped by for a visit. She brought a cake as a gift, her face a little sheepish. "I wanted to apologize," she said to Rosa, "for what I said. I was wrong. You are a blessing to this family." Rosa accepted the cake and the apology with grace. She held no grudges. There was no room for that in her heart now, so full of love. When Mrs. Gable left, Miguel hugged Rosa from behind, kissing her neck. "See? Even Mrs. Gable recognized it." "Recognized what?" "That you're amazing, and that this is your place." Rosa turned in his arms, smiling. Our place, he agreed. And when the twins came running, shouting, "Mommy! Daddy! Come see!" Rosa didn't hesitate. She was a mother now. She was a wife. She was part of a family. She was home. And finally, after so long adrift, Rosa had found her home. Not in a place, but in people, in love, in belonging. And every night before sleep, she sang that old melody to the girls. And Miguel would listen from the doorway, smiling. Because here, in this little house in the country, God had brought together broken people and made them a whole family. And it was beautiful. It was home. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to receive new stories every day. What would you do in their place? Comment and share with someone special.